Hi, everybody. We're going to do our devotional today based kind of on what the pastor was talking about last Sunday, just a couple of days ago. He was talking about faith. I'm going to talk a little bit about that today, too. I'm going to be reading from the book of Mark, chapter 4, starting in verse 35. So let's read the story of how Jesus calmed the storm. That day, when evening came, he said to his disciples, "Let us go over to the other side of the lake." Leaving the crowd behind, they took him along just as he was in the boat. There were also other boats with him. A furious squall, a storm, came up, and the waves broke over the boat so that it was nearly swamped. Jesus was in the stern, sleeping on a cushion. Don't you like that? I love that. He was asleep on a cushion. The disciples woke him and said, "Teacher, don't you care if we drown?" He got up, rebuked the wind, and said to the waves, "Quiet, be still." Then the wind died down, and it was completely calm. He said to his disciples, "Why are you so afraid? Do you still have no faith?" They were terrified and asked each other, "Who is this? Even the wind and waves obey him." So, awesome story that you've heard since you were a kid, right? When the storm had gotten so bad that they were just sure that they were going to die, Jesus stands up and calms the storm, as we all know. When this happened, you can just imagine that the disciples, the apostles, the 12, were awestruck. They were dumbfounded. And then Jesus turns to them, and they look in his face, and they can tell that he's not pleased. Jesus says to them, "Why are you so afraid? Do you still have no faith?" And now they're awestruck and dumbfounded again, trying to take in what Jesus is saying to them. And they end up, of course, terrified of Jesus because, of course, they knew someone was there with them that was greater than they knew, someone that they had to struggle to understand. Well, let's talk about the situation the apostles were in. Make no mistake, their situation was dire. The storm was life and death. But here's the point. Jesus expects faith from his people when the situation is dire. He expects courage from his people when the situation is life and death. Well, we're in a storm right now, aren't we? We have something we don't quite understand, something that is threatening to us and the stability of our country. What does Jesus expect from us? You know what he expects from us: faith and courage. Let's change scriptures for a minute. Let's go to Galatians and that familiar verse, chapter 5, starting with verse 22, talking about the fruit of the Spirit. You remember, "For the fruit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control." Okay? You remember all those. But if you've been around me very much, perhaps you've heard my theory that list is not a whole list of the fruit of the Spirit. It's kind of representative. I feel like there are other fruit of the Spirit that God is trying to grow in our life. For instance, the fruit of the Spirit is humility. That makes sense, doesn't it? The fruit of the Spirit is wisdom. The fruit of the Spirit is holiness. How about this one? The fruit of the Spirit is courage. Yep, that's what we're talking about today. Godly courage goes hand in hand with faith. And in the storm, Jesus wants to see faith and courage in his people. As I was kind of thinking about all these things and thinking about what I would say to you today, I had on a YouTube video of some people preaching, and I heard one of these people say, "God delights in courageous people." Well, as I was thinking about all this, of course, I took that to be, yeah, maybe I'm onto something. God delights in courageous people. Amen. Children of God, let's show the world what faith and courage look like in this storm. Get out there. Make Jesus proud of you. Thank you.